What's going on? And welcome to a special edition of Vehicles and Videos. I've got my brother from the same mother, Brinton, over here. Brinton shares a unique perspective here. We're going to talk about the Fisker Karma, aka the the Karma. And Brinton, you have some experience with these. A lot of times we kind of talk like first thoughts, whatever else, but you have some experience with these vehicles. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your time with them and yourself?
All right, so we jumped right in. I thought we were going to introduce the car scooch first, but
Okay, well,
I
hold
will
on. So
tell.
I can go back. That's the
Yep,
best part about video.
yeah,
I can
nope.
cut.
So, so yes, I started working at an independent repair shop right as Karma was repurchased by a Chinese company called Wangsheng. And when that purchase happened, there was a lot of warranty money that was allotted to the original Karma owners. It was part of the buyout, and what that did is, our facility, I believe it was like $8,000. The customers were credited towards any repairs that the cars needed. So pretty much every car in the East Coast, well, the Northeast, um, came to us, and we did software updates, motor updates, interior repairs, you name it. We did it. And yeah, so I did that for about 3 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
So again, kind of along the lines of first thoughts, like you got this job to work for Fisker at the time. I don't think it was a very popular brand. Um, what what were you thinking when like going into that job, and now you've got this vehicle that due to Sandy, they lost
yeah.
a lot of their inventory during due to Sandy stuff like that, right? Um, what did you think of the vehicle? Again, first thoughts, like,
So it was 2016 when I worked for them, and that technology then was outdated. The car was really cool. I've never, ever, ever been in a car where you're stopped at gas stations, stopped on the highway. People followed me to talk to me about the car. It was borderline crazy. People thought I was a celebrity. People thought I was, all sorts of different things. So as far as that aspect goes, very cool conversationable car. Um, and then when you get into the quirks and features, it's kind of subpar. The drive of the car, fine, but it's more so the what it wasn't. It never made it to be what it could have been, type thing. Unfortunately, which is why it went with the way with the dodo bird.
yeah. So I noticed this was kind of, in fact, I actually think it was the actual first luxury, or I think luxury is the correct word, but it was one of the first luxury electric hybrid cars to come to market. I think its original retail price was like 130,000. Um,
Base price was 102. Fully loaded was 116. Certain regions sold them for more, of course. There was the signature edition. I didn't get the price on that. I think the signature edition was maybe right around 130. Yeah.
yeah, give it, it's still not the price of a Prius, right? A Prius about that
Yeah.
time was probably like
Yeah.
37,000,
Yeah.
right?
And
And
that
that's
and it was a one model year only in 2012. So I don't know what 2012 money is equivalent to today, but probably closer to 150, 160,
yeah,
maybe even,
good
to
point.
be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, but like so I've seen a couple of them. I stopped by your shop when you were working for the off-branding company, which is again unique in itself in that it's not like you went to a Ford dealership or a Tesla dealership or a Toyota slash Prius dealership to get your car worked on. There wasn't a Fisker dealership, really, was there? So they
No,
had to they
no.
had to have all these independent contractors that were licensed to do all of this work, right?
It's my understanding that there was three of them in America. There was one in California, one in Miami, Florida, right in the outskirts of Miami, and then, us, well, I say us, it was small shop. Joe Ferrante, Evolution Motorsports, was is the owner, still does it.
Nice.
Very, very good guy, extremely knowledgeable. Um, and yeah, that was it. That we were the only players in the game.
As we're talking about this, I realized, didn't they I mean, you got pretty comfortable. I think your forte as a mechanic has always been, like, tracking down electrical problems. I think that's what, in conversations I've had with you, that's what you've kinda said. But you got an opportunity to actually go to China and work on
I
one of these,
did,
didn't
yeah,
you?
yeah, yep, yep. I did. I went to China. I think including the time change and layovers and all that stuff, it's like 30 hours to get there. Um, and yeah, I went
Wow.
to China to fix. They had 3 Karmas that were all gathered in a port city of Tianjin. And believe it or not, only 2 owners wanted to pay for me. So there was a third one there that was broken that I didn't even touch. So weird scenario. They didn't wanna contribute to the expense of fixing it. It was bricked. It didn't run, but I fixed 2 of them, and the 3rd owner didn't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, but that's still pretty crazy that, again, there's not that many options to get your car repaired, and that w
Yeah.
and at that point, it was cheaper for, these 2 or 3 Chinese owners to fly
Yeah.
you out from America to
Oh, yeah, I mean,
repair
they
the
pretty
car.
much they had no there was I guess there was another person in Germany that was entertaining the idea, it's my
Mhm,
understanding. But no, ultimately, it was me that went over there. Yeah, it was
and I
like
think
software. It was all software and very basic stuff that got the
interesting.
cars up and running. Yeah.
Now, the original, Fisker company, I think, was an American company, wasn't it?
So, yeah, Henrik Fisker, uh, hence the name Fisker. Uh, he gets credit for doing the BMW Z8. He was in
Yeah,
charge of that. So if you look at the Z8 and compare that to the way the Fisker looks, and he also did the Aston Martin DB9.
yeah,
So once
and
again, you look
honestly,
at those 3 cars and they look quite similar.
especially the way it comes over the wheels to the nose, like, in that front grille,
Correct.
right?
Yep. Yep.
It's like, "Oh, yep, there you
Yeah.
go."
Yeah. Yeah. So technically, yes, to answer your question, is an American company, but the cars were made by a company called Valmet in Finland.
Right.
So they were all, there was about 2,400, 2,800, 2,400 of them built, total. So that was it
And
for the
then, I
world.
mean, it
Yeah.
was a shame because, in 2000 and like, well, in 2008, I think is when Sandy was, but they had a large portion of their inventory destroyed
I think it was
and
like
basic
300. I didn't,
yeah,
you can, yeah, it was a few, it was a lot. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, when you only have 2,000 cars, 300 is is a large portion, right?
That is a large number. Yeah.
You know, and basically, for those people that weren't familiar with Sandy, Sandy was a hurricane that really destroyed a lot of New Jersey, New York. I think it might have even hit as high as Connecticut. Um, the Jersey Shore was like completely washed out, and Fisker at the time had their cars sitting at a port in New Jersey, right?
Yeah. So, salt water got to something, and one car got set on fire. Stories report it was a Tesla, other stories report it was a Karma, but Elon Musk, I guess, had enough money to sway it that it was not Tesla, and, I'm joking a little bit, but at the same time, maybe not. Um, and it was Karma's, and once, you have a lithium ion battery fire, the temperatures are so hot and it spreads so quick that it destroyed, between the fire and the salt water, a lot of them were destroyed.
Yeah, which is horrible. I mean,
Yeah.
that's horrible. They ended up taking a bail. Prior to that, they ended up taking a bailout. They took a big government loan,
Correct. Yeah.
um,
I got
in
the
order
number written down. They got a loan for 528,000,000.
yeah,
They had
that's not jump change.
no, a loan for 528,000,000. They had private investors. They had a totally accumulated over $1 billion, and when they sold off, when they declared bankruptcy, a company called Hybrid Technology bought it for 25 million.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had 25,000,000. I don't know, I mean,
Yeah.
they're not really doing a whole lot, like, you know, they rebranded as Karma, right? When Wang Shay bought them.
Yep.
Did I say that correct? I
I
think I
think
did.
it's Shang. Yeah.
Wang
Sh
Sheng, sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
When they bought them, they rebranded to Karma, right?
Yeah. Karma
And,
Automotive. They, Henrik Fisker didn't wanna sell his name. Yeah, I guess he wanted to sell the name Fisker for a very large, amount of money, and they were like, "Nah, we're not giving you that kind of money for your
I
name."
mean,
Yeah.
if you've done the DB8, if you've done the Z8, you know, you've got your name on a lot of cars. I actually was seeing he had something to do with the Model S, the Tesla Model S.
He did, yep, correct. Right around just about the same time he came out with his car, he was hired from, with Tesla, yeah. He
Yeah,
didn't get the final design, he did the initial
right.
draft. So, and then he got his own thing going, yeah.
Yeah, which is I mean, you know, I just amazed that, you know, you can see it in a lot of cars. I mean, we just mentioned these 3 here, but you see it in a lot of cars and like, "Oh, man, this looks a lot like that car," and whatever else, and then it's amazing how many designers work for multiple different companies, and, I mean, Fisker was actually on the board at Aston Martin. He wasn't just a designer, he was actually on the board
Yeah.
of directors at
Oh,
Aston Martin.
he's in the automotive industry for years. He
Yep,
had friends in high places when Karma went together. There was I would have to refresh my memory. It was a few years ago where I worked for him, but I mean, Bob Lutz, been in the automotive industry forever, but I think he was involved with Karma. A couple other ones. A company called LFV. Man, I might be getting the letters in the wrong name under the pressure here, but were making some really cool cars too. They would convert um, Mercedes and other cars, and they would make them look more towards Henrik Fisker's body designs, and it was pretty cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
So we talked a lot about the history of the Fisker and the Karma and the background and the designer. Now, this car was also kind of unique in itself because it was electrically driven, but it still had a gas powered motor, right?
Yes. Um, so this was a hybrid that had no transmission. The traction motors, so there was 2 traction motors that went to a differential in the rear of the car. Um, the, uh, the engine went to essentially the same traction motor, like, they were identical looking, but that engine converted that into essentially a big alternator, a motor. There's a motor that would create the, power to keep the battery maintained. So the gas engine, the internal combustion engine, was a Chevy 2.0 turbo, that was the same engine that they used in, like, the Pontiac Solstice and the Vibe, or no, not the Vibe,
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
that little convertible thing they had, back then, that it
The
was
Del
the
Sol?
rear wheel
No,
dri
that was the Honda.
yeah.
The Solstice,
There you got
because there's a Saturn.
the
The
Saturn
Solstice.
View, or
Yeah, the
Saturn,
Saturn.
whatever that's called,
I think it
very
was it the
rare.
Saturn Solstice?
We'll have to look that up, but,
That was
it was
actually a
that
cool
car
little
that
car.
everybody was like, "What is that thing?" Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, that engine, overall, all things considered, in the Karma, that was not a weak link for him. Did a couple minor things on the engine, but overall, the engine was not the weak link. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of amazing that they ended up using a four-cylinder. I mean, fundamentally, it's a generator, right? Like, what
Correct.
is and it
It
was
would
turbocharged too, I believe, right?
turbocharged, it was designed to run at, like, 1,800, 2,000 RPM, so just
Mhm.
enough that it was kinda like making a buzz, but it wasn't
Right.
like, it wasn't, you know, too annoying. And the software did allow the engine to kind of rev up a little bit as you're accelerating and stuff too. So it didn't feel too staticky, like it's just holding 1 RPM the whole time.
Excuse me. Yeah. The I again, I just thought it was interesting because it was. I mean, that's probably like 120 horsepower motor.
300, almost
Three
300,
that motor there itself was 300. Wow.
300. Yep.
Um, that's even more amazing. I mean, I guess I'm thinking of like, like a 1.2 liter Volkswagen turbocharged motor. They're
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
putting
No,
out 200.
they had it
Right.
tuned. They had it tuned for 300 horsepower.
That's
I
that's
mean,
awesome
yeah, I don't know. I didn't write it down on my cheat sheet, but yeah,
because
in my memory, it was right around the 300 number.
gotcha. Because I know what I've discovered is that the electrical motors, motors, right? Because normally you call an electrical motor a motor and a gas powered engine an engine, right?
Correct. Yeah.
That's the
That would be
difference,
what
right?
an engineer would say. Yeah.
Yeah. But the Fiskars put out 400 horsepower and like 959 foot-pounds of torque, which is
Correct.
pretty
The
right.
torque was
That
mind blowing. Yeah.
that's insane. So,
Yeah.
I mean, my understanding of an electric car is like torque is instantaneous. There's no torque curve on an electric
Mm,
car, right? It's
right.
just
Yep.
because of how the motor works. It's either there or it's not there. It's on off, right?
Yeah.
What what was it like to drive that car with that amount of torque, or was or
So
was there
the car was quite heavy. So weight
right? It was like
it was it
5,200 pounds.
yeah, weight was
Was it that
its
much?
big
Yeah,
thing, and then it was a one speed differential. So the motors went to a one differential. So
gotcha,
it the when Karma Automotive bought them, they made some software changes, but overall everything else stayed the same. And the 0 60 was like 5.3, 5.5, 5.6 seconds. It was under 6 seconds. It was like literally what a fast Toyota Camry can do it in.
gotcha.
So it's not uber impressive, but um, it does put you in this back in the seat of your pants like an electric car feel does, because there is no gear change or anything like that. And when you hit the gas, you know, you move for that first 100 foot. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess the other thing too is like when you rev up a car, when you accelerate, right, and you push down on the gas pedal, you start to hear the revs climb, and it's like, like
Yeah.
like you can judge by how the revs climb how much you're accelerating. But on an electric vehicle, when there's not that sense, it's like it's a little bit more by memory of like this is how much my foot goes
You
versus how fast I
you
go.
do get electric motor noise. There is noise in the
Right,
drivetrain. It almost has
it's a
below
whirl, right?
below a certain speed, they do have speakers that make this you know, like a lower no, it's actually more like a high pitch, like wah sound, like that echoes off the ground. So you kind of feels like it's a
Mhm.
spaceship traveling across, the parking lot, so pedestrians can hear it. Um, but after a certain speed, the speakers cut off, um, and you do hear the motor and the differential noises of just a low pitch hum kind of noise. Um, that is kind of cool. I'll be honest. I mean, you get used to it.
Yeah, like I
It's
said,
it's similar to a Tesla.
right, and again, I think from the 2 or 3 that I saw in your shop when you were working on them, I was really impressed, like, the interior looked really nice, the the overall styling was just it was fantastic, right? It
Yeah.
was a really
So
slick
the
looking car.
yeah.
Um,
So the car took years and years and years from its initial drawing to actually like production. So it it was roughly like 2008 when they founded the company, but it wasn't until 2011 when they started production of a 2012 model year. And if you remember how fast cell phone technology changed, um, and then just like people went from MP3 to Bluetooth to different technology back then. And in the automotive industry, it didn't matter if you had a S class Mercedes or any, a Lexus. Technology in those early years was very, the navigations were quirky. touch screen technology wasn't quite as good, things like that. And because their technology was probably more like 2010, 2008, by the time it actually made it to production, it was probably even a little more sluggish than the average 2012.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Um, and so speaking about sluggish, I think you mentioned this is like the generator, right? The gas powered motor, the engine was in the front or was it in the back?
No, it was in the front. Yeah.
It
So
was in the
front
front.
engine with the generator, like a gen set essentially. The battery was double stacked down like what would be like the in a typical front engine rear wheel drive, which would be where the drive shaft went. So like if you picture the battery was stacked high and narrow along between the engine and the differential along that way. And then in the rear, it had independent rear suspension with two motors, and each they did have drive shafts, going from the motors of the center of the diff area out to each, knuckle,
Right.
spindle, whatever you want to call it.
And that hits right on to what I was about to say is because people have basically they've LS swapped this car, right?
Correct. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that
There's a
makes it
company out in Detroit, I believe, that does that. Um, some celebrities and whatnot have all purchased them.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who owns any now, but you know, 10 years ago, they were pretty cool.
right,
Yeah.
you're taking out a GM motor, right?
Yeah, you're taking out
Get
a GM motor and putting another GM motor in. Yeah,
dropping the batteries,
yeah, yep.
right? It's probably a little bit easier of a swap than people realize. Like, if you were to take
There was it was we looked into it when I worked for Joe. There had to be some firewall reconstruction because it didn't
oh,
quite fit the way they wanted it to. So the company
gotcha.
that did do it told us what was involved in it, and there was some structural stuff that they had to do to make it fit right. It wasn't it, there. You couldn't just fit it in. It had to have some firewall
Gotcha.
reconstruction.
I wonder how much do you maybe you know, maybe you don't. How much did that affect the dash and the heater core and, like, all that kinda
It's my understanding that the interior was almost the same.
oh, that's great.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I couldn't imagine what that swap would cost from a shop, though.
Yeah, I don't know what the swap would cost, but I know they were selling them for like quarter million, so like 250-ish.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you just put a transmission on that 300 horsepower.
Yeah, come up with something. Yeah,
Right? I'm sure it's the
yeah.
batteries and the electronics that are that weighs a good chunk of that
The
5,300
the
pounds, right?
batteries are not light. In any EV, batteries are a lot heavier than most people realize. Yeah.
Now, I know one of the things that you were doing is since we're talking about the batteries, you would drop the battery tray and then you'd basically kind of replace some of the dead cells, right?
Correct. Yep.
And
Yep.
then
So there was it all had a BMS, battery management system, that could track dead cells in the battery, and we did have a way of um, pulling them down, separating into individual cells. Each cell, man, I should have been more prepared for this. It's been 10 years. I think there was about 14 different cells, and we could break each cell down. Now we weren't repairing the batteries themselves. We tried. It's very the way in which they're manufactured. They're like glued together, and the glue is it wasn't worth it. But we could replace one of the 14 cells.
okay, that's nice. I'm sure that made it cheaper for the owners, right? Because the owners have had
Ye-
these things,
Well,
right? And
and here's the other thing is, so in theory, these batteries didn't exist. So it was new old stock or used ones that we were putting in.
mm,
So we did have X amount of used ones from salvage cars that were totaled. We would pull batteries apart. We would put them in a vehicle, um, charge it because it all had to be in the vehicle. You couldn't charge it outside the vehicle. Charge it, do whatever, pull it back out, and break it all down, and mark the good batteries, mark the bad batteries type situation.
awesome.
Yeah.
Um, So we've talked about some motor swaps. We talked about some of the performances, the specs. One thing that we like to talk about on the show is uh, how you might have seen this car in either the movies or the spotlight, or a little bit more pop culture references of these cars. Um,
Yeah.
do you remember? And you might not be prepared for this question, but a friend of ours ended up doing like a Star Wars themed interior
Oh, yeah,
for a
yeah,
car,
yeah, yeah.
right?
I can't remember her name. Lynn was the name of that customer. I can't remember her
Yeah.
last name. I think she in Connecticut area. Very, very big Star Wars fan,
So
and,
that's what it just a big Star Wars fan that
just a
wanted a
big Star
Star.
Wars fan.
Yeah,
She had a vision.
that's awesome.
It was drawn up. We literally made it look like a stormtrooper helmet almost. It looked pretty badass when we were done. We had
Yeah,
vinyl put on the outside, and we had the whole inside done in, like, white and black, all the upholstery redone and everything, and it turned out really good. Mm.
I think it was at Mikey Seats that did the upholstery,
Yeah,
right?
yep, yep, yep.
Um, and then, this is also pretty notable because at one point it was wrapped in chrome, right?
Yeah, Justin Bieber was in 20 in the Biebs. It was definitely, on some of those, whatever those TMZ shows are, pulled
Right.
over,
Well, didn't he end up
speeding.
hitting somebody in this car? Like this because of the
I
sun,
do
because it was wrapped in chrome, like the way that the sun shined and glinted on the chrome
I think there was
blinded him.
some sort of nonsense about that, but I think his producer gave him the car. He had his fun with it, and then he gave it to someone else type situation. I
Yeah.
don't think he had it for a very long period of time. I think he had his fun with it and moved on, yeah.
Yeah. So I couldn't find a whole lot about the car. I mean, it seems like it made an episode of 2 or, of, 2 and a Half Men. It made it in the car
Oh,
show and
yeah, I watched that back then, I remember, yeah, I
yeah,
totally forgot that till you mentioned that, yeah. They blur the badge out and everything, but yeah, Charlie Sheen was like, "Oh, I gotta plug in this," yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And it made a movie, The Paranoia. Um, it's actually surprisingly in a couple of video games. You can find it in Gran Turismo 6, and you can
Okay,
find it in Grand Theft Auto 5.
wow.
If you wanna check this car out, which is kinda neat, It's like,
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean, they
not
didn't make a lot of them, so that's kinda cool, yeah,
yeah, I would say not every production car, gets a nod in a video game, and here it
yeah.
it made 2, and, it made 2 pretty good ones, like, right? The Gran Turismo, I think everybody enjoys those, and, Grand Theft Auto, who doesn't enjoy stealing cars and, beating somebody up with a
Yeah,
baseball bat, right?
yeah, I guess, I'll be honest, I'm not a gamer, so I don't do that, but, I mean, why not try and drive one in a video game? Sounds fun. Yeah.
Yeah, so, alright, so let's, I think we can wrap this up here a little bit. Um, is there anything that, you think we might have skipped over, or anything that was unique or interesting about the car that you kind of really stood out to you or you really enjoyed?
So the thing that I thought that was unique about the car, and I do believe there's talks of other manufacturers that maybe have been around longer, maybe have more political pull, but essentially the car, because it was a engine that went to a generator, it could charge its own battery. So essentially, it could run indefinitely and charging the batteries. And you could they put a time limit on that, and the EPA at the time
Oh.
didn't really love the idea of that technology. They really slowed down the amount of output they could do. They really slowed down the technology because they were scared of it. They thought bad things of it. They thought people would,
Hmm.
like, run the car in their garage, and it's like, well, what's to stop anybody from running their car in a garage?
Yeah,
They're like, well, what if someone, like if someone's trying to use it as a generator for backup power, they're, what? It's like, well, you know, there's a lot of stuff that they were trying to slow down on it, and I
and that
think the technology of having an engine as a generator could be used more. That's like the diesel locomotive technology. There's another. company called Edison Trucks that are making logging trucks that are really cool technology of similar time. And now that things are um, more known about and battery technology's changed, generator technology's changed, I think that would be interesting to see if they didn't have those. Um, I'm getting long winded here. If they didn't have the restrictions they had, I think
Right.
that would have helped them a lot. And people probably don't realize that how many restrictions you're given as a car manufacturer.
And, I think that's something that you and I have talked about in the past that I just totally forgot about. I mean, you mentioned that the generator would run at 1,800 RPMs. Could you imagine if you could just crank it up and it's winding at 7,000 RPMs and,
Yeah,
like, it could
yeah,
be producing so much more power
yeah,
potentially there, right?
yeah.
And likewise, that's one of the drawbacks I think of electric technology right now is it's very limited, and then you have to charge, and hopefully the charging station is open, and there's so much more to that, which I think it's interesting, and we're actually going to touch on this in the next episode. Is hydrogen fuel cells and how hydrogen fuel cells are creating electricity and recharging the battery. Um, so it'd be interesting to, as we dive deeper into that, to find out if maybe there's some restrictions on that, and it can't.
It's there. There's a lot of very smart people out there that come up with amazing ideas, and it's a lot of it is kiboshed. I will say that for sure.
Yeah,
And it's worldwide, not just America. Yeah,
gotcha. All right. Well, definitely, I think this was a great little deep dive here.
yeah.
Again, one of the first, well, the world's first luxury electric vehicle. It was a hybrid. We can't. I
Hybrid.
mean, to me, I think of it as electric because it was driven by a motor, right? But it had both, so it's technically a hybrid, right?
Yeah, I
Um,
think the range was 32 miles, pure EV. So if you charged
right.
it, you could drive 32 miles. So it wasn't a and it you could go highway speeds too. So
Which is and I don't know. I mean that's weird in itself too. It was probably the weight, right? And like you said, it was a little dated and for the time. It probably didn't have the best technology that for to make it a little bit more efficient than that 32 miles that you just mentioned.
yeah,
Um, but I mean, it was just a great looking car. I kind of wish we saw more of them on the road today. I don't think anybody really knows what a Fisker or a Karma is right now, right? Like,
I can't imagine because like I haven't seen one in quite a while. I know there's a couple not too far from where I live, but yeah, I haven't seen any.
yeah, and you've worked on them,
Yeah,
so you
yeah,
you know roughly where they're all
mm,
located on the East Coast.
yeah, 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 yeah. I do. Yeah. And they're a quirky enough car that no one wants to buy them either because retail value on them is quite low, all things considered. But it's probably going to hold where it is for a very long time. It's probably not going to go down, but I can't imagine it ever really going up in value either.
And what would you speculate is the retail value? You talked about it. What do you think
Yeah, so I mean,
right now?
it's I just looked today. You can get one for $20,000 with like 30,000 miles on it.
That's not bad.
And then I saw one listed for $30,000 and it had 101,000 miles on it. So
Hmm.
I don't,
It's
um,
it's probably
but I,
unique enough of a market that people kinda, like, they kinda choose the price that they're okay getting rid of it with, right? And then
yeah, or based on the repairs they had done to it,
yeah.
or based
Well,
on
yeah, I
you
forgot
know
about that too, right?
things like that. But I would say you could safely get one for high 20s.
Nice. Maybe I'll have to look into one. I know somebody that can fix it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, not anymore. I mean, it's all software. It's a lot of it's software, so you have to have that software.
Oh,
But
yeah, gotta
I
talk to
mean,
the
but
the main computer, right?
there's a handful of other things that go batteries and the motors, and but yeah, it's overall we had many, many customers. We only saw them once a year for their annual service. So, yeah.
I need bank number 4 replaced. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Brenton, thanks for joining us. I think
Yep. Yep.
this was a great little chat. Uh, we were talking about the Karma Fisker, and sorry, the Fisker Karma, and maybe you'll be joining us next week when we talk about the fuel cell and the Hyundai N Vision 74. So that'll give you something to look up.
All right.
But thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next week.
All right.